What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday night. It is Draft Lottery Eve. Okay, so we're going to mentally prepare you for tomorrow. That's what we're going to do here. All right, we're going to talk about... honestly, this is just an emotional exercise, this draft lottery, Eric. We'll talk about, how it all works and whatnot. We'll go over it. We've been going over it for months, though, so obviously not a ton to talk about. We'll talk some playoff action. We'll talk some draft stuff. That's going to be today's stream. So, on Thursday, I said it hadn't really set in yet, Eric. I think it finally set in like an hour ago for me because I was thinking about this stream and thinking about tomorrow's stream. And, I'm going to use this stream to mentally prepare myself and to mentally prepare Blazer fans. Do you, yourself, feel mentally prepared right now?
I don't know if I'm ever mentally prepared because, it's... No matter how dumb it is, like you buy a lottery ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a $500 million jackpot. You always have that feeling like, what if I win? What am I going to do with the money, right? No matter how, you know you're not going to win, but it's impossible not to think about that possibility. So I don't think I can temper my expectations and be like, oh, it's fine. I know we're going to get the 7th or 8th pick because the odds are so much better than that scenario I just talked about. So it's a case where I'm going to be really disappointed if we don't move up. Not the end of the world, but it really will make this process a lot tougher, just like we've talked about with the trades we made, making the process a lot tougher, and some of the other things we've done. And it just all adds up to the least possible route to get better if we do not move up in the draft, and that's a lot to be riding on a 37.2% chance.
Yep, I've been growing out the beard for like a month now. It has honestly not that impressive for an entire month of growth, right? But for luck, all right, we're going to find out if the beard is lucky or not. Okay, that's what we're going to find out tomorrow. But I was debating and thinking about just coming on the stream and telling people that we already have the 7th overall pick and to not worry about tomorrow. Because that is where I'm trying to get that's where I want to be. Want to go through the grief early so I have more time to go through the grief so that I can handle it better. All right. So I'm expecting the 7th overall pick. That's the most likely pick for the Blazers to get. They do have a 37% chance of moving up. That's pretty dang good. That's why we tanked all season. But it's more likely that they don't. Okay. It's about 50-50 whether they fall down or not. It's a little bit more likely that they fall down. So I'm sitting here accepting the 7th overall pick, okay? That's where I'm trying to get myself mentally so that I'm not too bummed out tomorrow. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if it's bad. I don't know if I'd advocate it for you. I'm not a therapist, and the therapy session wouldn't be tonight anyway. It would be tomorrow, but that's kind of how I'm looking at things right now.
Yeah, for those of you who have watched the latest Spider-Man movie, it's like expect disappointment and then you can't be disappointed, right? So I guess if you never get your hopes up or whatever, that's fine. It's just, I don't know, it would just really suck if we didn't move up, but chances are that we are going to have the 7th or 8th pick. So unfortunately you're probably going to be right with that prediction. Let's just hope we have a little bit of good luck. The 6th pick has not been good at moving up for like 7 or 8 years. I think now it hasn't moved up.
Yeah, it hasn't moved. Yeah, well, I don't even want to go there.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I know it's not probable.
Oh, you have me arguing optimism. I don't need to be arguing optimism right now, but see, that's the thing is somebody put that in our group chat, our Twitter group chat, and I saw a couple of people lament the fact that the 6th overall odds have not moved up in the past 7 or 8 years. But, right? It's the odds are the odds, Just because you flipped heads 3 or 4 times in a row doesn't mean you're more likely to flip heads than tails, right? So, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're more likely to flip tails than heads. The odds are the odds. And let's just segue that into the odds because I have them right here. I've had them pinned on my Twitter profile. So
But
if you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me. Eric, go ahead before I state the odds for each.
Let's read off these 2 donations.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bill's Woj, $2 donation, says number 1. I'm assuming he's predicting us to get the number 1 pick.
Is that supposed to be a good luck dono?
I don't know. Maybe. And then Jam1231 with the $2 donation asking, do you guys remember watching the lottery in 2007?
Yes, I do. But let's not bring up 2007 because that didn't work out too well.
But
thank you for the dodos. But yeah, I remember watching it and being ecstatic, and then I wish we had number 2 instead of number 1.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of funny because the year before we had the best odds of moving up, and Toronto ended up winning the lottery in 2006.
And took Bargnani.
Andrea Bargnani. And then the Bulls took LaMarcus Aldridge at 2 and traded him to us at 4. And then we traded up from 7. We had a draft day trade that netted us the 7th pick with the Boston Celtics. And then we actually swapped that in cash to move up to 6 and get Brandon Roy. So we had the positive energy of that draft being overwhelmingly positive, at least for that. Heading into the 2007 season, there was optimism abound. We didn't really know about Roy's injury situation at that time. So, and then 2007, we hit the lottery, and yeah, it's hard to say that a non-game is one of your most memorable moments as a Blazer fan. But for me, I mean, easily since the 99-2000 team probably.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of Dame's 2 game-winning shots and the Game 7 win over Denver, there's not many other memories for me as a Blazer fan since the calendar year turned to 2000 that than the winning the draft lottery in 2007.
Yep. That's one of my earliest Blazer fan memories, to be honest. I don't remember anything before 2006 except for Zach Randolph turning me down for a hot dog. So that was one of my earliest memories. Anyway, Caleb Pendergraft, $5 dono. He says, hoping for number 1 or number 2 pick so we can get the next Sam Bowie. And he says he's being sarcastic, but I don't think he is. Thank you for the $5 dono, Caleb.
Thanks, Caleb.
Sam Bowie, Greg Oden, just embrace the fact that if we get the number 1 overall pick, we're going to screw it up. And then if we get the number 1 overall pick tomorrow, let's just not even think about it, all right? Let's just not even think about the past. That's where I'm at right now. Here's the thing, though. I'd rather be us right now, Eric, than a team at, the worst team. Because the only way you can go is down if you're Houston or Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know which team was the worst. Which team had the worst record? Because it's even odds for the top 3.
Wasn't that Orlando?
It was Houston.
So,
Houston, all they can go is down, and they have a 48% chance of falling outside of the top 4. And they had the worst season out of anybody. So we have a 37% chance to move up. They have a 14% chance of staying at 1, and then a 86% chance of moving down. So, honestly, I would be more nervous if I was Houston or Orlando or Detroit, but also I'd be less nervous if we didn't screw up the trade deadline, if we're being honest. If we had a bunch of assets to play around with, then, I wouldn't be as nervous. But if we're sitting here with the Lakers pick from New Orleans at 8, then I'd be even more nervous. Or if the Pelicans didn't play their way in.
I would be 100 times more nervous about seeing that pick moved up than I am about the Blazers pick, I think.
Yeah. So it kind of streamlines it, makes it easier to focus on,
but
just the Blazers pick. But I wish we had the Pelicans pick too.
Here's my counter argument to Caleb Pendergraft's thing. So the top 3 picks are pretty clear, right? They've been that way pretty much the entire season since Jabari's first few games. The top 3 picks have basically been between Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, and Paulo Banchero, right? And, there's been some talk like someone would take Ivy ahead of one of those guys. And, Sharp could see a rise into that top 3 if everything breaks his way and he shows up in workouts and stuff like that. But all three of these guys that are supposed to be the top three picks are all different players, but they're all like pretty much the same position. Now you could argue Chet's more of a center than a power forward, but basically all three of them would be drafted for the Blazers to play power forward their first year, right? So it's not like we'd be taking the generational center over the scoring wing in Kevin Durant, or the generational center in Sam Bowie over a potential all-time great Michael Jordan. You know, we're just having to choose between three very different players, but all that could serve a role and fit in nicely on this team. So I'm not as worried about the number one pick jinx or picking the wrong player, because I feel like all three of those guys could help this team, and I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer between the three of them. Now, obviously, there's going to be a clear order, like one person's going to be better than the other two, and then there's going to be a last person out of that three, so you hope you don't get the worst out of the three. But I project all three of them to be very good players in the NBA, so I don't think we can go too wrong with picking one of them, and we're not going to pick for need in this particular instance, because the need is those three players. And so like all that stuff about our draft history, it was almost always come down to picking a center over a wing or a guard or whatever, and that's not going to happen in this case, I don't believe.
Yeah, unless Shane Sharp is the next MJ.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
like,
obviously he's nowhere near as proven as MJ was or anything. I'm not trying to make that comparison.
Even if he is, let's just say he goes on to be like better than Bradley Beal or something, you know? Yeah. Like, it's still hard to look back at this draft and justify saying like he should have been taken over one of those top three guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about the draft in a second. Shout out Adam McVeigh, $5 Australian dono. Adam's feeling frisky. He says, I'm feeling so frisky about this lottery. Have a feeling we're going to the moon. Rip City, baby. With a bunch of Y's. Shout out Adam for the $5 Australian dono. What's up?
All those moon trips haven't worked out so well. Still hoping that some of those stocks, the meme stocks, and the for you probably the Bitcoin stuff shoots to the moon, but still waiting on that.
I'm not even messing with crypto right now. It's in the gutter right now. So to the moon maybe shouldn't be the slogan going into tomorrow. But I'm feeling so frisky as the slogan. Adam, Thank you for the dono. Shout out Caleb Pendergraph, another $5 donor from Caleb. He says, I'm already nervous about the Blazers pick. I don't know how much of a wreck I'd be if the Pelicans pick was also giving me worries. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I guess that's a silver lining in terms of us getting screwed over. You know, we've already been screwed, so we don't have to worry about getting extra screwed tomorrow. So, you know, that could be worse. Anyway, thank you, Caleb, for the $5 dono. Anyway, here are the odds that the Blazers get each pick. The most likely pick they end up with is 7th, which has a 29.7% chance of happening. The second most likely pick is 8th, which has a 20.6% chance of happening. Then you jump up into the top 4. There's a 9.6% chance at the 4th overall pick, a 9.4% chance at 3, a 9.2% chance at 2, and a 9% chance at the number 1 overall pick, 8.6% chance at staying at 6. So that's less likely than moving up for any of the top 4 spots. There is a 3.8% chance that we fall to 9th, and there is a 0.2% chance that we fall to 10th. Those odds are my pinned tweet on my Twitter, so go follow me and Eric if you haven't already. So, I mean, it's more likely that we get 8th than... Well, it's actually more likely we jump into the top 4 than we fall to 7 specifically, but we do have a... let me think. 50.3% chance of falling to 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So that's how the odds.
It's very unlikely we fall to 9 or 10, but I mean, we could get unlucky there.
I mean, here's the thing for me though: is outside of the top 5, the prospects are are very close to me. I don't really care if we're 7th or 9th.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like. I want Sharp, and I guess Sharp could fall past 5, but I don't think he's going to. My gut feeling just says he's going to be the 5th overall pick, because I think he presents far more upside than anybody else in the draft at that spot. So I think the top five's pretty clear cut. Obviously, if we don't jump into the top four, we can't end up at 5. They only draw for the top 4 spots. So if we don't move up, I don't even really care where we end up, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm just worried about what Greg just said in chat.
Well, if we fall to 9th, we're more likely to trade it for Jeremy Grant. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I am not looking. That's what I'm guessing.
Yep, and that's based on us in rumor to have been hoping that Pelicans pick conveyed so that we could offer that. So that would have been in that range. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if he's willing to trade 9th for Jeremy Grant, how do we know he's not willing to trade 7 or even 6?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the thing is, yeah, obviously 6 or 7 is better than 9 because you can trade down. So I guess I care a little bit, but I don't know, man. I'm not confident. I like a lot of prospects in this draft in terms of their draft range, but that's in the second round. In terms of like 6 through the rest of the lottery, I'm not confident in any of these players given where they will probably end up being drafted. Because even the guys whose games I kind of like, with a Benedict Mathurin or an AJ Griffin, I feel like they're going to be undersized at the 3. And obviously that's what we don't need. So and then you have some talented guys that could end up being really good that have good size for the 3, even good size for the 4, but they're like a lottery ticket type of guy that you probably don't want to take at 6, 7, 8, or 9. You know, that would be like an Usman Jang, a Nikola Jovic, or even a Leonard Miller type of guy. So that's the thing is it's just such a mess after 5, in my opinion, that I don't know. Like, the 2 guys I'm most confident in after 5 are Johnny Davis and Malachi Branham. Both of them are shooting guards that are undersized at the 3. I think Mathurin and AJ Griffin will measure in undersized at the 3 as well. Like, Keegan Murray has a high floor, but I don't like his ceiling, and I want to go for somebody with more upside. So I'm really stuck on what we do if we don't move up. Or what I'd want us to do. We'll probably find a way to trade for Jeremy Grant if we don't move up, but I don't even know what I'd want at that point.
Mean, you still got to hope that the Hornets don't move up, which they most likely wouldn't, and then you have that trade down possibility with 13 and 15. You also have some trade possibilities with the Spurs having multiple picks, the Thunder having multiple picks, including tons of future firsts and stuff like that, so maybe you get 12 and a future first or something for 7, which would be cool, just to add some extra draft capital. And then maybe you package like the Milwaukee pick and that future first we get in that for Jeremy Grant if we have to trade for Jeremy Grant. And then, but if we're giving up 2 firsts for Jeremy Grant, we better make them take Eric Bledsoe, in my opinion, and then keep our trade exceptions. But and then we still get, like you said, a player in the range that's not that much different than if you're picking at 7. So I think that would be the best possible case scenario if we stick around in that mid range.
If we don't trade down out of 6, 7, or 8, then I would be disappointed.
Yeah.
For 13 and 15, like you said, makes sense. Even for 13 and PJ Washington, OKC has the Clippers pick right now at 12, so Lou Dort in 12, whatever it is. Like, the value you're getting from 12 through 15 is very similar, in my opinion, as you're getting 6 through 8. So that's kind of where I'd stand, is if we don't move up, I'd want to trade down. I don't want to pick 6, 7, or 8, you know? Because that's the thing, if you get 13 and 15, you just have options, like you just laid out, you know, trade one of those for Grant, if that's what it takes, and then draft somebody at 15. And if that's, you know, Usman Jang, or if, I don't know, something wild happens and AJ Griffin's an undersized 3, but you think he can play the 3 and he falls to 13 or 15 or something crazy like that, then you would draft him there, and that would be solid enough value. You know, if AJ Griffin's undersized to play the 3, I don't like the value at 6 or 7 compared to other draft classes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I also think, I mean, if you're getting multiple assets for one asset, then I think taking a guard, even though it's not ideal, it's still if you think that's the best player in the available. So like if Branham or even Baji or someone is still there at like 13 or 15 or whatever, then I think you take them and you just realize that you're going to have some small lineups because honestly, every team that's left in the playoffs right now has all had success playing no one over 6'10 in their lineups, and just being very switchable and having all kind of similar players in the game so they can't just hunt one player. So maybe that's a way that NBA is going. We kind of thought maybe when the Cavs had some success with a bigger lineup that would maybe be the way to go. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see them in the playoffs this year to see how that would work out in a playoff type setting. But yeah, it might be. I think you just take the best player available, and
yeah,
if one of them can play a little bit of small forward, it's fine.
You just need versatility. You need to be able to defend in different situations and whatnot. That's why I like Chet at the 4, is because, yeah, you're going up against some small ball lineups probably, but I think he can defend out on the perimeter and protect the rim, so he can defend in multiple positions. That's why I would like, if we trade down, that's why I'd like a guy like Ousmane Dieng, because he has good size and he seems like a guy who could be somebody that guards 1 through 4, or maybe even play some small ball 5 if he needs to add a bunch of strength to do that, but that's definitely possible. And then he can also handle the ball and play make and do some things off the dribble. So that's why I like Dieng. That's why if we sit there at 6 or 7 and we have the option to trade down for 13 and 15, and then, I'm not a huge Grant fan, but assuming we're going to get him no matter what, if you trade down and take Dieng and then draft Grant, I can live with that compared to the alternative of, I think I'd rather have that than trading Keon in the Milwaukee first for Grant and then drafting an AJ Griffin or a Benedict Mathurin, unless those guys measure better than I think they will.
Yeah, because like I said, in my scenario, if you take, let's just say we took Mathurin at 7 or 8, I know he's better than like an Agbaji, but is the drop-off that much to where you can still move back, get Jeremy Grant without having to give up a bunch of other assets, and you still get a similar type player that could be a plug-and-play, ready to go right away player. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation is either going to be this, or it's going to be...
Who are we taking?
Jabari, Banchero, or Chet? Which one do you want, or which one do you hope falls? Or at 4, do we take Sharp?
Please have someone above us take Ivy or Sharp.
Yeah. So obviously the discourse and some of the videos that you guys are going to see on the main channel is very dependent on tomorrow. Part of the way I'm setting myself up to be let down but not too upset is if we do end up at 1 or 2, I don't want to sit there arguing for Chet for a whole month. I don't want to. I don't. As a Gonzaga fan, man, it's like I feel like people just won't I feel like a lot of people just don't even give me credit for being unbiased. And I don't want to sit there arguing that I'm unbiased or not. You know what I mean? It's just a headache for me. So, if we don't move up, that's something that I won't have to deal with. And so I'm looking for silver linings in case we don't move up. That's one of them. I'm just preparing myself because as Blazer fans, Eric, you know how it goes. We've been disappointed time and time again. We haven't made the second round since I started Blazers Uprise.
I mean, it's 3 seasons, yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't made the second round. And we haven't even had a draft lottery to get screwed over in yet. And now we do, and it's surreal. But I don't know, man. Like, it would be, if we move up, it would be the most positive stream ever, I guess. Because it's not like we've had some big playoff wins. No, we've only had 3 playoff wins in our channel history. That's it. But, those playoff wins are fun. We haven't even been able to talk about a series win, though.
Nope.
So, if we move up, that'll be extremely positive. Given our track record of getting screwed over by things since we started Blazers Uprise, I'm just expecting us to not move up.
Well, our very first stream, we had Nasir Little fall to us at the 25th
Yeah.
pick,
Yeah, and then it was
and
downhill from there. Maybe we should get
well,
Damani back on
well,
stream.
we haven't had a first round pick since then, have we? Because we traded the next year. We traded the next two
Correct.
for Rocco. So
And Cronin might try and keep that streak going.
yeah, might.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, we could be sitting here talking about having City Bay, and then whoever we picked at 23, I think it was our pick last year. But anyways,
Let me thank this dono, Isaiah Muhammad, $5 dono. He says, how exciting would it be if the Blazers, with our stud draft pick, hopefully matched up with the Pels next playoffs or play-in? That'd be a blast, in my opinion. Yeah, that'd be something, but then if we lose to CJ, because CJ goes off, and all we got was Josh Hart in Milwaukee first, then that would be frustrating. But appreciate the $5 dono, Isaiah.
a playoff series with the Pelicans would be very fun. If we're both in the play-in, I think that's a failure in my mind. As much as I don't think it's going to be super possible to pull off a home run this season, and I'm fine with kind of preparing to make us the best possible in a season or two. But if we're in the play-in this next year, I still think that's kind of a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, I agree. And the shout out Caleb Pendergraph, $2 donor. He says, thoughts on PJ Washington as a TPE trade target? I mean, he wouldn't be a bad guy to add as a backup big man that could play the 4 or the 5. He's undersized. He's a little undersized at a 5, but he has a long wingspan and a taller standing reach than you would think, considering he's listed as 6'8". So, you know, if you can get him, like if you end up at 6 or 7 and you can get PJ Washington with 13 and 15 in a trade down, then that's a really damn good trade. Considering I'd probably trade down from 6 or 7 to 13 and 15 anyway. But I mean, if they'd rather give up PJ Washington than the 15th overall pick, would you trade down from 7 or 8 to 13 to get PJ Washington?
I don't think I would. I'd rather have 15 than PJ Washington, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they want to include PJ Washington in that.
Yeah.
And he actually fits in our Robert Covington trade exception.
Yeah, we have a $6.5 million TP.
Yeah, I think he's a little too much to fit in the smallest one we have. But, yeah, so it was rumored last season they were just wanting a first-round pick for him. So if we traded 13 and 15 and the Milwaukee pick, I guess, or so 7 and the Milwaukee pick, and got back PJ Washington and 13 and 15, and then traded 15 for Jeremy Grant or whatever, I guess I'd be okay with that.
What about if it was Keon? Because Rahi proposed that, but with Keon instead of the Milwaukee first.
I'm fine with that too. I would trade Keon straight up for PJ Washington if that's what they want to do. I don't think they would, but I would do that for sure.
Here's another trade down idea that's kind of the same thing, but better for us. If you end up 6, 7, or 8, trade down to Washington at 10 or 11 and try and get Rui. I don't think that's enough for Washington, but if they really want a guy that's available at our pick and are willing to give up Rui to trade up and get him, that would be a guy that I would love to get.
Mm-hmm.
I would like Rui more than PJ Washington.
Yeah. And for those asking in chat, so we're going to go live around 4:30, right?
4:30 p.m. Pacific time, yep.
And the draft lottery starts at 5, so...
Yep. So
that's all Pacific time.
A little bit of lead up into it. Yeah, Connor with the TPE numbers in there in chat, slightly rounded, but yeah, that's basically our 3 TPEs. So it's not just the $20.8 million TPE. We got one for Rocco as well, $6.5 million. So yeah, PJ Washington fits into the Rocco TPE. So does Rui Hachimura. So there's guys that we don't have to match salary for. That are in the smaller range where we don't have to waste our $20.8 million TPE on them. So.
Right, and if we're talking about not getting one of the top 3 picks, then we still need to somehow fill that power forward spot somewhere. So, yeah, I think Rui would fit that well. But if we're talking about getting Jeremy Grant on top of that, I don't really like Rui as much playing small ball center as I do PJ Washington, so that might be a reason to go for that for him over Rui. But overall, I think Rui still has more upside.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Portland just has to go for upside plays.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm not a huge fan of Keegan Murray for them. That's part of the reason why I'd trade down too. Is because I think there's some high upside guys in the middle of the first round that I'd be down to make a play for that might not be ready to play right away. But if you're trading down, you're getting another asset to help you get somebody that's ready to play right away. So that's kind of where I stand. I like the draft more. I like the draft at the top. The top 5, I like the draft. And then 6, 7, 8, not a fan of the draft. And I like the draft more as we get later into the first round and into the second round. I'm having trouble ranking the second round right now because there's a lot of prospects that I think could be really solid players. Here's kind of my takeaway. After the top 5, there's not a ton of high upside guys left in the draft compared to normal draft classes, but there's more high floor guys. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's hard to rank those guys. Because high upside guys are boom or bust. That's easy to kind of look at a guy and say, oh, I think has a chance to pan out, or I don't. This year is hard, man. So that's the thing, is you could get some guys that can contribute year 1 in the second round, I think, this year especially.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Did you happen to catch any of the Elite Showcase today?
No, I did not have time. I knew you watched it, though. Who stood out? Sasser, I saw, played well.
Yeah, Sasser
somebody we haven't talked
played
about.
really well. He's been completely off of radars because he was hurt most of the year, and I think everyone just assumed he was going to go back to school.
Yeah, or everyone doesn't know who he is, which is probably 90% of our chat.
Yeah, but he had a really good showing. So what happens is, I don't know if there's a set number, but there's a certain number of guys. Last year was 4 guys, I think, that they took from this showcase and then let them go to the actual combine. But there were some good players in there, like Bouye was there.
I think McCullers being slept on.
Yeah.
But I hope that he doesn't play well because I want him to go to Gonzaga, because McCullers either going into the draft or he's transferring to Kansas or Gonzaga.
Oh, okay.
And did you know that?
No, I didn't know specifically what teams he was transferring to.
Yeah. So I'm hoping he goes to Gonzaga. But he's a guy that really good defensive player and an okay enough shooter to have some confidence in it. 3-and-D guy. And his playmate a little bit in his career, so that's a type of 4-year guy that I think is being slept on, because he didn't get invited to the draft combine. He got invited to the lesser combine that we're talking about right now.
I think Vince Williams played today too.
He should have been invited to the draft combine. I was shocked he wasn't invited to the draft combine. He's a guy that I don't know how you could have him outside of at least the mid-second, just because he's a 6'6" guy that has the size to play the 3, that can play defense and shoot the 3 ball well. And he can make here and there. He needs to get much better off the dribble, but he's another guy. I was shocked not to see him invited to the draft combine compared to some guys that did. So, I mean, there's a ton of we could talk about second rounders for 15 hours. I don't want to get too deep right now. We'll have a bunch of time to talk about second rounders. So I want to kind of hold off on that, because I know people in chat have been asking about second rounders. I kind of want to pump the brakes and wait on that. Instead, are you ready, Eric?
Sure, let's do it.
You already know what I'm about to say. It's the last one of the season, basically. The season/off season.
We could do one quick tomorrow.
I don't even want to do one tomorrow. I just want to let this one ride, okay? Because then tomorrow is just already there, and I don't even want to, okay? So this is, let me make sure it's set up properly. Here we go. Tankathon, cool. This is the last one of the season/off season. We've done this at least 100 times, I think, by now. And here are the odds. 37% chance for Portland, 9% chance number 1 overall pick. Don't really need to go over it too much more.
So nerve-wracking as each Number 14, please be Cleveland. Please be Cleveland. Number 13, please be Charlotte. Please.
Yeah. The more teams. So this is also to prepare you guys for tomorrow. The more teams below Portland that jump up into the top 4, the worse for Portland, because they draw for the top 4 spots. So if you start off in Cleveland, Charlotte, and the Clippers pick jumps up into the top 4, that's 3 of the top 4 spots taken. Yeah, and you're talking about 5 teams that have a better chance at the top 4 than Portland with only 1 spot left. You know what I mean? Obviously, that would be insane if that happened, and isn't gonna happen, right? Knock on wood. I don't even know if I need to knock on wood for that, because that would be so astronomically insane. But the more teams that are off the board by the time we get to wherever Portland's supposed to be picking, it's worse for Portland. So if we're sitting there and every team is off the board up to Sacramento, that's really good news, because then there's only 6 teams left for 4 spots. At that point, we probably have more than a 50-50 chance of moving up into the top 4.
Yep.
So obviously, if 2 teams like Charlotte and New York jumps up into the top 4, then we'd be expecting Portland's pick to show up at 8 instead of 6. So obviously, whenever you're expecting Portland's pick, if you don't see it, then they've jumped up into the top 4. That's basically how it works when watching the draft lottery. We haven't been in it in so long that I'm not sure people, really know how things go. So
Joey
we try to prepare you guys.
If it's all random. No, it is not all random. Not a thing is random.
Yeah.
It's all predicated on percentages and stuff. Yeah.
The top 3 teams have equal odds, and then they have the best odds. And they draw for the top 4 spots. So after the top 4, it's decided by order of standings. That's why Portland can't move up to 5. Okay? Because if they don't jump up into the top 4, one of the 5 teams above them is going to be at 5. Because they're only drawn for 4 spots. So that's why Portland can't be 5th. Hopefully that all makes sense.
Yeah.
If you have any other questions, we can answer them after the sim. But they start at 14, so that's why I always scroll up from the bottom. So let's simulate this thing and see if we get lucky on our last draft lottery roll of the season. Pray to the Tankathon gods. Anyway, at 14 you got Cleveland. At 13 you got Charlotte. At 12 you got the Clippers. That pick's going to OKC. At 11, you got New York, so far so good. At 10, you got Washington. At 9, you have the Pelicans falling to 9th, so that means the Spurs jump up into the top 4. At least it's not the Pelicans, but still, not good news to see a team jump up.
We would have the 9th pick.
Yeah. Yeah, if we backed up, yeah. Anyway, at 8... you have Sacramento. So next up would be Portland. Portland's after Sacramento. At 7, you have Portland. Told you guys to be ready for Portland to be 7th. At 6, you got Detroit. At 5, you got Houston. At 4, you have OKC.
Houston fell for all 4 spots.
Yep, that sucks for them. At 3, you got Orlando. At 2, you got Indiana. And at 1, you got the San Antonio Spurs.
Jeez.
I told you guys to be prepared for 7. Hopefully this set it in stone, so you guys just expect... I'm pretending like this is real. I told you guys. Right. Dang it. We could have had Chet.
Do you want to do an extremely quick mock of the lottery?
Oh, based on this?
Yeah.
Okay, San Antonio at number 1, I think goes Chet. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they would take Chet.
That's just, I don't know why, he just seems like a Spurs type, like a Popovich type of player. At 2, I think Indiana goes Jabari. Or they could go, I don't know if they'd value shot creation or shooting next to, I don't know. Indiana's just such a wild card.
Yeah.
I think Indiana goes Banchero.
But, I don't know, it kind of depends on what they're doing with everyone else on the roster. Because they had kind of a creator in Sabonis, and they traded him away. It wasn't working there, so maybe they go more for shooting.
Yeah, but I think they're going to trade away Brogdon, or I think they should. Miles Turner is an ideal center to put next to Banchero, so if they plan on keeping Turner, then I like Banchero next to Turner better than I like Jabari. But if they're trading Turner, then obviously the equation becomes different, so it's really hard to predict. But I mean, at 2 and 3, you're going Banchero and Jabari, or Jabari and Banchero, in my opinion, because I don't think Orlando's going to take Ivy, and I think Indiana wouldn't reach for Ivy at 2, even though they would be an intriguing team for Ivy because he's from Indiana and went to college in Indiana. I think you got Ivy at 4 to OKC. Do you agree with this so far?
I think OKC would take Sharp, actually.
Do you really?
I think they're going to go just for high upside.
You know what I think happens then? I think OKC trades down from 4 to 5 and 17 via Houston.
I don't think
Actually, Houston wouldn't trade up for Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. OKC could leverage, even if it's trading down one spot, they could leverage the fact that, oh, we're just going to trade out of 4. So even though you're one spot below, if you really want Jaden Ivey, that's who teams want to trade up for. You need to give us some value.
Yeah.
But Houston with Jalen Green, I don't know how much sense Jaden Ivey makes there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if OKC is in 3, 4, or 5, I would lock it in for Sharp. I just have a gut feeling that they're gonna fall in love with him and be the one team that can afford to take that risk without it affecting their GM's future or whether he gets fired or not, like a lot of these other teams would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go that confident with it, but I do agree with the premise of that. Sharp at 4, Ivy at 5 if Houston's there and he's there. It's kind of a weird fit, but I mean, at that point,
I think you just got to take the best player.
Yeah. Maybe they trade down and get more assets if they don't want both Ivy and Jalen Green. At 6, you got Detroit. I feel like they go. I don't know what they do, man. I could see them going Keegan Murray. I could see them going Mathurin. I could see them going Jalen Duren. I could see them. They're a wild card there at 6. Who do you think they would take?
Yeah, I was gonna say either Murray or maybe AJ Griffin comes into play here, but I think Murray makes sense as the long-term power forward next to Sadiq Bey there.
I would be happy if Murray went off the board at 6 to Detroit.
Yeah.
At 7, you got Portland, and I don't even know. Like, AJ Griffin's the consensus pick, but I think he's going to be undersized at the 3, and defensively he is a bit questionable. Mathurin, I think, is going to be undersized at the 3 as well.
Mm-hmm.
If both of those things are true, then and Portland stays at 7, who the hell should they take then?
I mean, I know you don't like Duren, but I guess that could.
I have Duren 6 on my big board.
Oh, do you? He's moved up.
Yeah, he played better the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we had a discussion like halfway through the season. I wasn't impressed with him, but he definitely played better the second half of the season. Physically, he's very intriguing, obviously.
The only problem with that is it's just like taking a guard. It doesn't necessarily... I mean, we do need a backup center, or if you don't believe Nurk is the long-term center, someone who could take over for him. I just don't know what forward you would take over either those guys who you mentioned who are guards or Duren at center. So like you've been saying all along, it's a real tough spot, especially if the measurables don't work out for them.
If Branham, I don't think he does, but if Branham had the size to play the 3 and Griffin and Mathurin didn't, then I would take Branham at 7.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely. I think Branham's going to be good. I just don't think he has the size to play small forward. So for a team that needs a shooting guard, they're loving this part of the draft. For Portland,
I kind of agree with some of the people saying Sohan could be in play there too.
God. I mean, I don't have anything against Sohan, but I mean, that's where you got to trade down, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and then if he's there, you take him. If not, you take an Ousmane Dieng or somebody like that. Sohan's just not good enough for me at 7 to justify not trading down. And that's the thing is, it's just tough because the obvious picks here are guys that are probably undersized 3s, more 2 guards, or a center, which we need a forward. But there's a team like Charlotte at 13 and 15 who they need a center of the future. right? Right now they got Mason Plumlee and Montrezl. Like, they need a center of the future to pair with their core, and I think Jalen Duren would actually be a really good fit there in Charlotte as a rim runner. They like to play in transition as a pick and roll lob target for LaMelo. So that's the thing where Charlotte would potentially love to trade up to 7, and that's why a trade down scenario like that makes sense for 13 and 15.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about this at length earlier, but yeah, if you stay there, it's really tough.
I mean, there's honestly, like, if you're at 7, if New York really wants a guy at 7 that they don't think is going to last to 11, you could probably get some value out of them. I don't know what value because I haven't really thought of it, but it just takes one of these teams. Washington, if they really want a guy at 7, maybe you can get Rui. 11, if it's New York. If anybody says Julius Randle, I should chat ban you because I don't want Julius Randle. I wouldn't chat ban you, but I just don't want Julius Randle. You know, I don't know. Like, Mitchell Robinson's a free agent, so that wouldn't work. Otherwise, that would maybe be intriguing. I don't think they give up Obi Toppin after how well he played, but I've always kind of liked Obi. But that's the thing. It just takes one of these teams. It could be a team like Cleveland even, and maybe you get a... The problem is they don't have future first. But it just takes one of these teams being interested in giving up enough value for Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even Atlanta at 16. I know you're not the biggest Bogdanovich fan, but...
Well...
Would you like Bledsoe in 8 for Bogdanovich in 16?
No, because I think Bogdanovich to me is the same as Griffin or Mathurin or whatever. I'd rather have the upside of one of those players than trade down and.
I mean, you're still getting the upside of whoever you.
I mean, I wouldn't want. Though. I guess I just wouldn't want Bogdanovich. I mean, I'd take him, but. Maybe Detroit would want Bogdanovich in that case. So you got Bogdanovich going to Detroit for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe you have to get a little bit more out of Atlanta, but that's the thing. If Atlanta really wants somebody at 7, they give up 16 and Bogdanovich and are willing to give up something else that's decent value for 7 and Bledsoe, and you don't have to use the TPE. Then that, I don't know. Bogdanovich has a decent standing reach, doesn't he? He's 6'6". I thought he had like an 8'7" standing reach.
I just think he plays like a shooting guard and not a small forward. I've never liked him at small forward. That's just my opinion.
Huh. I don't know. I haven't watched enough of him at play the 3 to know. I just know he's cool with Dame. So and off the bench, I think he would be intriguing. I think in that scenario, that's a scenario where you start Nas at the 3 and then bring Bogdanovich off the bench. And I think he's more okay at the 3 off the bench playing against bench lineups than he is playing against starters. So see, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough discussion.
That's where getting a pick next year becomes really intriguing to me. Because Atlanta would probably be looking at it like they're going to be really good next year or should be back to being a for sure playoff team. And I'm not so sure that jump's going to be easy for them with how many good teams there are in the East now. So getting maybe a top 8 protected pick or something like that next year might be really intriguing because then you could end up with a possible second late lottery pick. Or you could use that to get our picks back from Chicago.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So. Yeah, that's the thing. If you could get 16 in Bogdanovich and a future first from Atlanta, and then you could flip that first to Chicago and get our 2023 first back, which is lottery protected through like 2028, so we can't trade our future first right now because of that protection. But if we did that, we could trade all our future first. Then you could keep 16 and draft somebody at 16, and then maybe you could trade a future Portland first, top 10, lottery protected, whatever, and then the 2025 Milwaukee first, and that's your trade for Jeremy Grant.
Habib, please do not spam chat. You know better.
So, I mean, that basically we'd still, cancel out getting our future first back if we include in the Grant trade, but then that would basically be 8 for 16, 8 in the Milwaukee first, or not 8, 7 or 8 in the Milwaukee first for 16 Bogdanovich and Jeremy Grant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's solid value wise. Not the most perfect fits as pieces, but at least you're getting solid value. So that's the thing is, I just want Crowder to get solid value. I'm not expecting much out of him after this past deadline. I just don't want him to give up terrible value, and that's what I'm worried about. So if that something like that happened, I would sit there and be like, okay, well, let's just see how this works out. And at least we still have a rookie. That's probably fun at 16, and that's our off season. So anyway, what do you want to touch upon next? Well, let me thank the dono first. Shout out Caleb Pendergraph, $2 dono. He says, Pistons fans overrating Grant, want Ant plus pick. Yeah, hell no, that's not happening. Yes, they do overrate Jeremy Grant. Mightily overrate him. Anthony Simons plus pick, which doesn't even work because Anthony Simons is a free agent, so we can't even sign and trade him until after the draft. So I don't know how we trade a draft pick this year with Anthony Simons in a sign and trade. Doesn't really make sense. So yeah, they wouldn't get Ant straight up for Jeremy Grant. Ant's already a better player and younger than Jeremy Grant, so and it has far more upside. So Ant plus pick is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Just a little mini rant.
Oh boy.
If you see any Blazer fan talking about acquiring someone via signing and trading Ant or Nurk, I'm sorry, but they just do not understand how the offseason works. You can't go into an offseason planning on signing and trading one of your players to another team. That player would have to want to sign with that team and agree to terms with them before you can even trade him to that team. So you can't just go to Phoenix and offer Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic sign and trade for DeAndre Ayton or whatever. That's not how it works. So you can talk about like Zach LaVine, right? You can talk about trying to get a meeting with him, and if you do convince him to sign here, then you can talk about what you're going to get back to Chicago, and maybe they see that as an opportunity to get an Anthony Simons, and then they contact Anthony and then work out a deal saying, hey, I just noticed that Portland's interviewing Zach LaVine, and we'd love to have you back instead. Like, would you be interested in signing with us? And then it works out to where you can do a double sign and trade. But you can't just go into the offseason before it's even started and before free agency has even occurred and you're allowed to talk to these free agents thinking you're going to trade a certain player to another team. That's exactly what happened with the Sacramento Kings 2 years ago when they tried to trade the guy we were just talking about, Bogdan Bogdanovic, to the Milwaukee Bucks, and they didn't even notify him that he was being traded or work out a contract with his new team or anything like that. And the trade was vetoed, and those two teams were not allowed to pull off that trade and had to wait a year until they could trade with each other, which they traded several of those pieces for different players in the Bagley trade, DiVincenzo, those kind of players in that trade at the deadline. But this is just a case where if you see any like scenario where someone is telling you, oh yeah, this offseason, let's just sign and trade Yusuf Nurkic to Phoenix for DeAndre Ayton. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen that way. It's just it's too difficult to pull off planning it that way. Now, you could get lucky and have a team sign that way, but I always go back to this. Everything they've done since the trade deadline has given us nothing but clues that they are re-signing Ant and Yusuf Nurkic, right? So all of a sudden, they're not going to give up multiple pieces and ruin cap space, ruin our trade exceptions, ruin all this flexibility we have right now just to get DeAndre Ayton instead of Yusuf Nurkic at center, right? So it makes no sense to do that. And we've told you guys this on this channel several times for several months. It doesn't make sense to have to give up Yusuf Nurkic, let him go for nothing, and then do all these other things on top of it, probably losing an Ant or a Hart in the process as well, just to have a chance to sign DeAndre Ayton and hope they don't match. And if we worked out a sign and trade, we're giving up some of those same pieces in a sign and trade anyway. So why would we do that? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then on top of that, why, if you watch Ayton in the playoffs this year, why would you want to pay that guy $30 million a year? That's what kills franchises, giving average type players like that, or slightly above average players that don't elevate your team's status, max contracts. That's what people complained about with CJ for years, right? And now all of a sudden you want to give a player that has less of an impact on a game $30 million, right?
But some of them want to give up a top 3 pick to do that.
Right. It's just crazy. And our draft pick is before free agency, so we'd have to basically have it where we just happen to pick the guy that Phoenix wanted. And on top of that, Phoenix is a championship level team right now. They have championship aspirations. They're not just going to go, oh, you know what? We lost in the second round. Let's just blow it up and go young again. They're going to try to get that missing piece if they let Ayton go or trade Ayton in a sign and trade. They're going to be looking for someone who can help Chris Paul and Devin Booker get over the top, not another rookie to add to that. So it doesn't even make sense that we would trade our pick in that situation. I don't get why people get so hung up on sign and trades thinking they're a realistic possibility. I know they happen, but it's almost always out of circumstance. Like Kevin Durant was going to sign with the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets had a way, I think they ended up getting some draft compensation out of it by Golden State realized that they were about to lose Kevin Durant for nothing. And so they call one of the Nets free agents, who was D'Angelo Russell, and they offer him a contract to do a sign and trade, right? It just happened to work out that the Nets also had a free agent that was of a quality of where you could offer them a big contract. Now, obviously, it's not anywhere near Kevin Durant, but they actually did really well to flip D'Angelo Russell for picks and Andrew Wiggins, and then, did some things there to where that trade kind of saved their future by sign and trading Kevin Durant instead of letting him walk for nothing. So that's the similar type of thing that what the Suns are going to look to do if Ayton wants to leave. But they're not just going to accept like Yusuf Nurkic for DeAndre Ayton or whatever in a sign and trade. That makes no sense for them to downgrade their center position or even just trade him for a similar player and pay them close to what you'd have to do in a sign and trade for that.
Yep, agreed. All right, what do you want to touch on next?
Let's see. Let's just answer questions.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll take questions for a little bit, then we'll sign off. When is the draft combine? It just started, or
so
said it was May 16th, but it's confusing. Go ahead.
It's so it started today, but it was only they're the best of the best out of the non-draftee invites. And so a lot of these guys are probably going to go back to school if they have eligibility, or be probably international or G League type players. And then so that's today and tomorrow, and then Wednesday. I forgot what's Wednesday, but I heard Thursday is like the main day where all the big players are going to be there. But so that's what we need to talk about. Shaedon Sharpe held a pro day at the draft combine today and had all the teams there looking at him, and did a bunch of drills. Did you happen to catch any footage from that?
I watched the footage that Draft Express posted. Mm-hmm. I mean, the dude just looks good. The way he moves just looks good, man. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I'm so sick of seeing players shoot or work out one-on-one or against some dummy player. I mean, you can't get anything from that in my mind.
It's not super impressive, but just,
Like
I don't know.
I know he can dunk. He's super athletic and
It's
can
not
dunk.
even.
I don't need to see him driving like 10 times in a row and going between his legs and dunk.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know
I
he can
agree
do
with
it.
that.
You know what I mean?
I agree with
I,
that.
I'm I do like seeing his shots, like his form on 3-point shots. But outside of that, yes,
He just
I think
looks
just
light
cringe
and
when
quick
people
on his
think
feet.
right.
Yeah, like the dunks and stuff is like I know he can jump.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't care about that. Some
Like,
of
I
the
want to see this guy in a
sidestep
game.
and
Frick.
yeah, some of the sidestep and step back stuff. I mean, the dude, if he's truly 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, he looks just very light on his feet and looks like he has quick feet, and that translates into being a guy like that's useful to be able to create off the dribble. You gotta be quick with your feet. You gotta be light on your feet. And that kind of bleeds into just being a shifty player in general. There's more that goes into that, but that's kind of something that I've felt like him before. So obviously, I'm not gonna watch any footage like that and come to any conclusions just based off that. Yeah. But I've always just kind of liked the way he moves.
Right. Well, I want to see him play defense, like on a good player. Like, I don't know. It's tough. But Rahi asked, well, he probably won't do scrimmages, right? I think there's zero chance that he does a scrimmage. He wouldn't risk any of that right now. He's just banking on his athleticism and mysterious upside being the thing that propels his draft stock, in my opinion.
Yep, agreed.
Chief and S, are we going to do a stream if we get the first pick, Tori? Are we going to do a stream right after that if we do?
See, if only he watched us like he watches Suns Valley podcast, man. Man.
Well, I can't blame him for watching that show, but Chiefin, I mean, you were in here earlier. You saw it. Okay, so...
Bro, I know for sure we've said that we're streaming on Lottery Night when Chief is in here. We say it like 5 times a stream, man.
Mr. Pyan, what's up, man? But anyways, yeah, Chiefin and everyone else who missed it.
And
earlier.
I said it in my draft content video on the main channel. Like, oh man, I don't know. I don't know how else.
4:30 tomorrow Pacific time, we will be live. We will be live with every pick that gets announced. We will have an immediate reaction. You will see our reaction as we see it live, whether it's jubilation or crying on stream. It'll happen live in front of all you guys. No need for a live stream right after that because you will already know our reaction if you're watching.
Yeah. One thing we do have to figure out for that, Eric, is how we're going to be synced up at the same time or what we're going to do for that.
Well, yeah, we'll just get together a few minutes before 4:30 and I'll just adjust my TV.
Okay, yeah, you got the TV. So I'll probably just watch it on... I'll probably find, because I got Xfinity Stream and I got YouTube TV, so I'll probably find which one is earlier and then watch that, all right? Just, let's not look at chat, okay? And anybody in chat, if you're watching with us tomorrow, we'll try and make it so you can get synced up with us, okay? So we'll say what's on the screen and whatnot. So we're going live 30 minutes before. We'll try and make it so that if you have a TV or a streaming app or whatever, you can try and get synced with us so that you can watch it live. And if not, you don't have to watch it on ESPN. We'll have graphics and whatnot, and I will say each pick that gets shouted out, so you can watch it that way. You know, instead of Mark Tatum's pretty face, it'll be mine and Eric's. But yeah, we'll have graphics for it and everything. And me and Eric will just get synced up, and that's how we're gonna do it tomorrow.
Caleb Prendergraph, another $5 donation. Really liked that Tory guy that was on the Suns Valley podcast yesterday. Thought he made some good points.
Yeah, he was talking about this thing called the CBA. I thought that stood for Chinese Basketball Association, but he was talking about the CBA thing and sounded like he knew a lot about it. Dude, I am glad I tweeted this out too. I'm glad I educated my viewer base CBA-wise because I was talking about some trades and stuff in there, and oh my goodness, no offense to Gabe and his community, but there were some people that were just giving me a freaking headache. So I'm proud of you guys. Everybody in chat, I'm proud of you guys because you guys are a pretty smart collection of people. Mm-hmm. And then shout out Connor, $10 dono. He says Wacklandia better, sadly. Thank you, Connor, for
better
the $10
than who?
Dono. I don't know. Better than him, I guess. Better mod. He should be my favorite mod instead of Connor, apparently.
Yeah. Okay, I have maybe this might warrant a poll question. Is it if I was to have either celebratory drinks or misery drinks, what would chat vote? Should I Should I drink if we fall in the lottery or drink if we move up in the lottery?
Yeah, chat, let me know what would make you want to drink more. Alright, I'll put the chat poll. I'm not even going to title it anything special.
Both.
Well, I want to see if you guys are celebratory or depression drinkers. So
everyone's saying both. Or celebratory.
Nah, you won't get both as an option.
Yeah.
Alright. We're going to see what type of drinkers our viewer base is, Eric. Anyway. Aeromancer, I legitimately just ordered nachos from Del Taco. It'll be here in approximately 10 to 15 minutes. But I'll be off stream by then, sorry.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm able to...
It's 50-50.
I do have stuff really early in the morning Wednesday, but yeah, I don't know.
Don't drink unless you want to. Don't feel peer pressured to drink alcohol, Eric.
I'm not feeling the pressure. It's probably for my own good. I'm not much of a drinker, but yeah, in this case, I had that Stotts was fired stream where I had some fun drinking on the stream, and I think that was the last time I got. I take that back. I had a few drinks on my last vacation I went on, but other than that, yeah, I don't drink very often, so yeah, I don't mind having a few drinks every once in a while.
I don't think I've drank in the past year. Look at me.
There was that. How long ago was that when you were going to like the casino and getting drunk a few times?
More than a year ago.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. But now she's engaged, so we were just friends. But since she got engaged, we don't talk no more. Anyway, since you wanted to bring that up, the casino trips, the A trips. No,
hey,
we gotta get.
Madam Mobile will be your date, I think, if you.
Oh, hell no. Is he? I don't even think he's 21, is he?
I don't know. He always talks about meeting up with you at A, right?
Yeah, it sounds like somebody that's not able to meet up at A. Anyway, shout out to Caleb. I don't do that. Shout out Isaiah Mohammed, $2 dono. He asks, Eric, really important question. Are you gonna stream if we win the NBA championship?
Would we have a post-game show for that?
Dude,
we'll have to let you guys know. We're not.
I'll go tear up downtown.
Yeah.
And stream from my phone.
Yeah, me too.
No, you can stream. Well, if you're home, you can stream, and I can Skype call in while I'm toppling street lights.
We will fly everyone who wants to come out to Portland, and we'll all party together all night long. And then, yeah,
we're gonna fly people. Okay, yeah. Downtown Portland or Vancouver? Yeah, I'll be the only one in downtown Vancouver.
Everyone's like going crazy in Portland, and there's a story all by himself cheering.
Yeah, Esther Short Park. I'll see y'all there. Anyway, any other questions? We'll answer them. If not, we'll be live tomorrow 4:30 p.m. main channel. You guys know the deal. Thank you for the donos. Everybody's very supportive tonight.
Honestly, I can't remember. I can't even imagine how good of a feeling that would be, especially if it's with Dame, man.
Yeah, I'm tired of imagining how good of a feeling that would be, because I don't know. I feel like I'll never get that feeling. I've never had that feeling, and Gonzaga was my best chance. They freaking lost to a team from Arkansas, man, and then Mariners were supposed to be good this year, and they're under 500. They started off good. We're like 12-6. I was like, oh, they're actually going to make the playoffs this year. Look at us. And then they lost like 11 out of 12 and are below 500 now. So, and they lost today too. So I'm already done with them. And, I mean, the Niners are my best bet, I guess. Because no other teams are even playoff teams right now. So, yeah. I mean, but here's the thing, Eric. We haven't talked about this all tonight. If Dallas can make the Western Conference Finals with that roster, I have more optimism going into the offseason.
Yeah, for sure.
I still don't think their roster is that good. And I still think Suns in 4. Anyway, I think a lot of people did not catch on to the whole Suns in 4 thing. But yeah, anyway.
So who do you think's gonna win it all now?
Boston.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to drop a mailbag tonight. Yeah, I'll be dropping a mailbag tonight. I haven't plugged that yet. Because that was one of the questions in my mailbag. So I'll be dropping that on the main channel. Just no videos tomorrow, just the stream. So I'll drop it, about an hour or so from now. But I think Boston. I like Boston. I think they'll take care of the Heat. I think they beat the Heat in 6. And then I think the Warriors beat the Mavericks in 6. And then I think the Celtics beat the Warriors in 6. What's your predictions?
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Warriors are gonna win it all.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not saying I want that to happen, obviously, but
yeah, I just think that the top of the East is better than the top of the West this year.
Yeah, I just think when you get into a finals setting, I mean, obviously the Heat made it there. They have Lowry with some championship experience, even though he's not looked good. But Boston, I think the moment might get to them more than it would the Warriors.
I mean, but when they were young, when Jason Tatum was a rookie, and
I know
Brown
they made it
was,
to the
second
finals
year,
a few times. The Eastern
Conference Finals, Game 7, and Tatum. I mean, I think Tatum's ready for the moment. Honestly, I think that's why I think it's ball. I think this just ends up in like Tatum's ascension to superstardom.
Yeah, when last round they were gonna get swept by the Bucks.
Dude, yes, I have not batted 1,000%. All right, I'm only right 90% of the time.
So now you're all over the Celtics. And last round
they beat the defending champs, man.
A Middleton-less.
They almost did
because
they were down 3-2.
Yeah,
I mean,
Well, so were the Mavs.
Well, dude, I did not expect Monty Williams to get outcoached by Jason Kidd, and I did not expect Chris Paul to become his age so quickly. Right when he turned 37. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. That's the thing with that. I thought Phoenix was going to take care of Dallas. I thought Dallas's issue was they only had one guy, maybe two, that you could rely on to create off the dribble. It turns out that team was actually Phoenix. Because Chris Paul struggled, and outside of Devin Booker, who are you going to rely on to create anything on that team off the dribble?
Man, I'm sorry for any Suns fans that are in here right now, but I cannot think of a more surprising thing than what happened last night. Like, how did that even happen? Like, I just don't understand how a team that good lays that big of an egg in the most important game of the season. I just don't get how that's possible.
I mean, I think there's some truth to they got a little bit cocky.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the Suns fan base, I think, not Gabe and them and their community is pretty good, but a lot of Suns fans, man, got a little bit too cocky. And now a bunch of them think they're going to trade Ayton for Dame and get KD somehow.
Yeah.
So they're on their Laker fan arc. I tweeted about that earlier today. All of a sudden the Suns fan base, a lot of the Suns fan base has turned into Laker fans. Or maybe Lakers fans came to the Suns fan base because the Lakers missed the playoffs this year, and we know how that goes. Maybe it's just bandwagon jumpers, but yeah, like the Suns. I mean, we haven't talked about Ayton. Do you want to end this off talking about Ayton?
I mean, we talked about him for a little bit, but
you talked about okay. Yeah, you talked about him a little bit. That was part of your rant, yeah.
The Suns are a front-running team, and yeah, it's. I mean, Luka was right after Game 5? They were down 3-2. It's easy to talk tough when you're ahead in the series or whatever he said, and then once they punch back, they just had no answer for them. It's weird. I
mean, do you agree with my assessment that Phoenix needs more shot creation to take the pressure off Chris Paul?
I think they. The problem is, I don't think it's as easy as saying that because, yeah, I mean, they could use a better backup guards, but
I mean, there's more than one
right.
problem.
In
But
theory, if that shot creator is another guard, does it really have the effect? I think they need a shot creator at one of the forward spots.
well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying on Gabe's stream last night, is especially at a forward spot. So that's why I was like, DeAndre Ayton from Miles Bridges is a double sign and trade might make some sense.
That's very interesting. See, there was some guy, I forgot who it was, but someone was saying that they know for a fact that there is a true NBA superstar that's going to be available
That
for the
dude
Suns.
Gabe has ranted to me about that dude.
Yeah.
That dude is not anybody to believe.
But I mean, I just got through ranting about this, but in the case of the Suns, with that big of a free agent who is most likely going to get a huge contract from some team, it would be best for them to try and make sure he doesn't sign and they're stuck in a situation where they either have to match a max contract for him or let him go for nothing. So in that case, I would make sure that, because you could try to play it with his agent like, well, if you like, it limits the teams you can sign with if you can only sign with teams with cap space, right? Because there's only going to be like 4 or 5 teams that can sign Ayton outright. Whereas if you open it up sign and trade possibilities, then it opens it up to a bunch of teams. And I think there's some really interesting possibilities with a sign and trade with Ayton going to another team if you're several other teams. Because the thing is with Ayton, he's young enough to where he fits with rebuilding rosters, but he also fits with kind of contending rosters, as we've seen, if you just need a good center to add to an already good team like Charlotte, like you mentioned. So there's lots of possibilities I can think of with Ayton this summer.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be streaming the draft lottery tomorrow on the main channel, Blazers Uprise. Okay. If you've only somehow found our second channel, this is our second channel that we stream Mondays, Thursdays. So definitely go subscribe to the main channel as well. There will be a mailbag later tonight. I'll probably just lazily barely edit that one. Seems like you guys don't have too much of a problem with that. So yeah, I'll have a mailbag, answer some of your questions as we head into lottery day tomorrow. We'll be live 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll stream that. We'll probably only be an hour-long stream. We'll have a bunch of streams after that to talk potential off-season moves and to cover more of the playoffs and whatnot. So we got time to dive into second-rounders too, because I know multiple people asked about potential second-rounders. We'll definitely get into that after the draft lottery. But right now, we're not focused on the second round. We're focused on the first round. And I'm looking forward to seeing... Hopefully, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow. But at this point, I'm just resigned to we have the 7th overall pick. That's what I'm expecting. Expect the worst and hope for the best. That is the best mindset to have. God, I'm nervous, man.
We have 3 donations. We got to get caught up on.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't even looking. Shot Gray Hughes, $5 dono. He says, we will get the second pick, and what pick number will make you cry? Also, as I've said before, I think Luka is the best player in the NBA all around. Thank you, Gray, for the $5 dono. What pick number will make me cry? I won't cry. I will be very disappointed, but I'm expecting to be 7th or 8th. So, if we end up 7th or 8th, it's what I expected. As far as Luka being the best player in the NBA all around, if he was a better defender, maybe. But I think at this point, it's Giannis. Because he plays both ends of the floor. Thank you, Gray, for the $5 dono.
It's hard to argue with Luka being the highest team raiser right now. If you look at that Mavericks roster, what they did at the trade deadline, and how that team is still alive in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I would kind of agree with that if you're just talking elevating your teammates. Yeah. It's hard to put it better than Luka right now.
But I mean, Atlanta made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. You know what I mean? I don't want to
That's true, but they
That's
played
the thing.
a
Is
team
everybody's
that
talking about
choked, and
yeah,
Atlanta
for
had
sure.
a pretty good,
for sure.
decent
I just don't want.
team. I don't know.
I just don't want to be too much of a prisoner of the moment when it comes to
But
Luka.
I mean, we talked about this. I mean, I tried to say this at the beginning of this series with the Suns and Mavs. Like, if they win this series, at some point we have to stop saying they're not a good team because they're.
I mean, I'm not saying they're not a good team.
They're right there every year. I mean, they were what, the fifth seed last year, tied with us. They were. I mean,
I'm not saying they're not a good team. I just for a conference finals team, on average, I think they're a below average conference finals team.
Okay, but that means that Luka is absolutely carrying them and is the floor elevator that I'm talking about.
I mean, he had a good series, and Chris Paul had a terrible series, and Phoenix did not play like Phoenix. If Phoenix plays like Phoenix, they win that series. I think a big part of it, just like a big part of last year Atlanta winning in the second round, went to Philadelphia choking that series. I think a big part of this has to go on Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix did not play like Phoenix, which that's the thing. And anytime there's an upset, you're going to say the top team didn't play like the top team, but that did not look like Phoenix, man. Mm-hmm. The Phoenix that we all know and expect. I mean, Phoenix, the first two games of that series, that was Phoenix. And those were games where Luka had some decent games, but they still obliterated them the first two games of the series. And then they obliterated them game 6 or game 5. They obliterated them. See, that was the one correct prediction I had that series was they were going to obliterate them in game 5, and that happened. And then I don't know what the hell happened to them, man.
Real quick before I add on to that, Caleb Wilson, if you need a dog at center, but you want DeAndre Ayton, you're contradicting yourself, so please stop.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing that happened to the Suns, or to the Mavericks, was one, somehow matching up with the Jazz in the first round, but two, I think Luka being hurt and them being fine without him, with Dinwiddie and particularly Jalen Brunson stepping up in those games without him, proved that and gave them confidence to when he came back, that they had some other guys they could lean on. And then Luka's just been, I mean, he's insanely good. And yeah, he's just, I mean, that guy's on another level right now.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, though, is like Dame would be capable of doing this, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't put this, against Dame being able to do this, it could be Dame next year. That's why I don't know, like, there's multiple players that are capable of if they're playing well and playing up to their true potential as players, can put their teams on their back. So Luka's that's not even like, people will take that as a knock against Luka. It's not a knock against Luka. He's a freaking phenomenal player. I just don't want to overreact too much to the second round, because I think Steph can do this. I think Dame could do this. I mean, Tatum's had some good moments. He's not Luka, but Tatum looks freaking phenomenal. 46 in game 6. So it was Trey last year, you know what I mean? So maybe not quite to the level, but there's some very talented players, and the skill level is higher than it's ever been. So yeah, it's impressive. I think I'll be willing to budge off this stance a little bit more if he does the same thing to Golden State and gets them into the finals.
Yeah, you've always been kind of I don't know what the right word is, but
don't agree with you, so I'm dumb?
No, not dumb. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when it comes to Luka, you've always kind of hedged against him being good.
I mean, that's kind of the case for most star players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's the thing, is when the league is in such a good spot and the skill level's so high, it's like, it's really hard to separate yourself from other stars. I think it's harder now to separate yourself from other high-caliber all-star players than it was like 10 years ago, because the skill level has gotten better. So now it's like, in order to separate yourself, you have to be that much more insane. So I don't think it's anything to do with hedging against Luka at all. It takes a lot for me to I don't know. It takes a lot for you to earn praise as a star, like, because that's the thing is, I'll sit here and say players are a star, but then when you start comparing them against each other, it's like all of a sudden you're being compared against players that are just absolutely insane right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's more the reason I try not to be biased against Luka or anything. I like Luka coming into the league. I don't like him as much now. I think he complains too much. And his attitude is just kind of... But I'm not going to hold that against him.
You are holding it against him, though.
When have I ever brought this up on stream against him?
I mean, you've always said like, we'll talk about Luka. He's great, but I just don't think he's quick enough to get by people.
When I said that in the draft before he was drafted.
I'm just saying, like,
So I was wrong on a draft call. We've both been wrong.
I'm saying, like, you've made comments like that throughout the whole existence of Blazers Uprise. Whenever.
No, I've literally said for the past, 2 years that he's proven me wrong. Like, where I shouldn't discount players for not being quick enough off the dribble. And I've applauded how he can play at his own pace and still get it to his spots.
Yeah.
I've said that players
growing up
need to look at him.
Like last
year.
No,
I've said that. I've literally said a couple months ago that players growing up need to watch how he plays more than a guy like Steph, because Steph obviously is just an outlier as a shooter. They need to study how he gets to his spots and how he uses his body and how he attacks angles. I've said that for months. Because that's the thing is, you're probably not going to be the quickest player on the court when you get to the college level. Like, it's really hard to play at the college level. Even if it's a low-level college level, those players are still better than you would think, okay? So if you get there, you're likely not going to be the most athletic player on that floor. So you have to know how to get to your spots against guys that are probably quicker than you. And Luka is playing against guys that are quicker than him and gets to his spots consistently. And makes shots from those spots. So that's who I've said... That's who players should study if they're young, is Luka, compared to, because they're most likely not going to be Giannis athletically and physically. Right. I know Luka's tall and has size, which helps him, but I've said that before, so I don't know, man. I feel like I'm not that much of a hater on Luka if I say that kids need to be studying the way he plays.
Say, I just don't think he's going to do this, or I don't know. It's all like I said. There's always a hedge in there.
Well, but that's what my whole point with pretty much any star is like. Yeah. I don't think there's any one player in this league that I will just say purely positive things about, without saying something negative.
I mean,
even Giannis, if he was a better freaking shooter, imagine how amazing he would be.
I mean, it's hard to when you look at. I mean, I guess I sympathize with Luka because of seeing what he's dealing with and, watching Dame struggle with attention in the playoffs. But he's so much, I wouldn't say better than Dame, but he's that type of size helps combat some of those defensive attention, how much attention you get in the playoffs with defense. So it's tough to compare the two, but just seeing him take out this Suns team and what he did yesterday and just the way he plays, man, I would put him in that category to where he's absolutely a star that could do it by himself, because he's pretty much doing that this year.
Did the Suns defend him in this series like teams defend Dame in the playoffs, though?
Not really, but they actually had so they came out in the second half and tried to double team him or trap him, and I have to
at that point they already knew they lost.
I have to give credit to Jason Kidd, man. They had this. They tried to trap him, and they had a play set up to where he gave it to, I think, Dinwiddie, or maybe it was Brunson, and Powell's was the guy who was being guarded by the double teamer, and he just went right to the basket, and Brunson threw it right to him. You could tell they had practiced it, and they all knew exactly where to go, where to cut, where to be, and Powell ends up with a dunk out of it. And Phoenix couldn't do anything, they couldn't trap him at all because Dallas was just getting an open shot every time they were doing
Yeah.
it. But
Well,
they were also switching way too much, and it was stupid. Like, they should have had McHale fighting through picks and stuff.
Well, that's my whole thing. Is like Dame's first round last year, I think, was as impressive as this second round from Luka. Of course, it came against Denver instead of Phoenix, but Phoenix was switching a lot. And here's the thing: is like, if Dame just had better defense around him, because that's the thing, the defense around Luka has stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
The defense around Luka has really stepped up. And Jason Kidd has come in and helped them become a better team defensively. And when Luka gets trapped, they set up the floor to beat it. Dame has never really had that. So if you take Dame in his first round performance last year and then you provide those elements, he would have a chance to get to the finals. So that's where it's like I'm not going to necessarily just say Luka is the best player in the NBA all around after the second round, because I think there's other players that, even lose series like that where they play to that caliber, but things outside their control potentially happen, like a guy like Dame.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not all around, because like you said, defense has to play into that. But in terms of elevating the team, it's hard to argue against him right now.
I mean, yeah, he's playing terrific basketball.
Because imagine if he had like Middleton and Drew Holiday. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that team's losing to the Celtics. I don't know. I know Giannis didn't have Middleton, so it's kind of a moot point. But yeah.
I mean, I think the Celtics played better in the second round than the Suns did.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am not happy with the way the Suns played, man. At all. I don't know. That's why I'm just curious to see, okay, can you do it against Golden State? Because Golden State's been here. And they're hungry again. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm looking forward to this matchup.
Yeah.
So, we'll see, man. I'm not saying he can't do it against Golden State, so don't say that I said he can't, because if he does it against Draymond and company, I mean, that's even more impressive, because I don't think Golden State is going to have or is going to underachieve as much as Phoenix did.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, and then Cole Ray with the $2 donation. Would you trade the pick if it's 5 to 10 for a forward?
If it's OG Anunoby, sure. If it's Pascal Siakam, sure. If it's Jeremy Grant, no. So obviously it depends on who it's for.
Just a side note, we cannot get the 5th pick, so it would be 6 through 10. But yeah, we did talk about that a lot, trading our pick back in that range earlier in the stream too, and what we would trade that pick for, or be willing to trade it for if you want a more complex answer.
Yep. Shout out Caleb Pendergraph, $2 dono, says, Did you two see that Morey has big plans this offseason?
Yeah.
What? I did not. What is his big plans?
I don't know.
Probably getting Levine or Beal somehow. But that, dude, if they get Beal, I don't know if God. They still have Doc Rivers as coach. If James Harden continues to decline like this, and Bradley Beal had an inefficient season this season and isn't the best defender, I don't know, man. Like, obviously they're a better team with Bradley Beal, but I feel like they would become a little bit too overrated if they got a Bradley Beal. I like Levine better for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're getting either.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a tweet by Romp, who is the Sixers GM in their Rocks offseason. Yeah. And I'm kind of scared about what he's going to do.
What do you mean?
He is very much in love with a very mediocre player, and he's going to give up a lot to get him, I feel like. And yeah.
Will you message me? Obviously, we don't want to leak it to the other mock off-season GMs.
Well,
but
I mean,
you're going to make me dig through his Twitter?
Anyone could look at his Twitter. It's Harrison Barnes.
Oh, it was
Barnes.
Tobias though. His trade was Tobias. I would have done that trade that he posted, but Sixers fans were saying they wouldn't. So maybe he listens to them. We'll see. That's what's interesting with having him running the Sixers.
Yeah,
is he going to listen to his fan base, or is he going to overvalue Harrison Barnes? It'll be interesting. Anyway, shout out to Speaking Facts, $5 dono. Says, think we can really win with Nurk being at center. I just feel like no one respects him in the paint, and if we keep relying on him, we setting ourselves up. Do you care to end off the stream with that one quickly, Eric? Thank you for the $5 dono, speaking facts.
Yeah, I think Nurk is totally fine in the right system. I think he can be a center on a very good championship contending team. I just think he has certain attributes that, when they're not being used properly, makes him kind of useless on the court, and that doesn't make sense to me why a coach would use him in those ways. So I understand why he gets frustrated and maybe pouty and inconsistent in those roles. Whereas we've seen time and time again, when he is involved, how dominant he can be with the 2020 games, the passing level skills when he's involved in the offense, setting it up and things like that. So I kind of look at it the other way, whereas I've seen Nurk, when he has the right role, be really a good player. And I think the more that it becomes obvious, the more Chauncey will feed into that. And I think it'll bring out the best in Nurk, and I'm not worried about him long term, other than potentially maybe injury-wise, which is always a concern with a lot of our players.
Yep. I don't really want to get too much into a Nurkic argument right now. Mm-hmm. Bonnie says, Tori, is your food getting cold? Probably. Anyway, thank you for all the donos. You guys were really supportive tonight. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. We'll catch you tomorrow on the main channel, Blazers Uprise. 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, 30 minutes before the draft lottery. Come experience it with us. Expect the worst and hope for the best. That's the mindset to have going into tomorrow. Anything else, Eric?
No, everyone have a good night, and hope to see you all on the main channel tomorrow night. We can all either celebrate or, be there for each other if we're all sad. So come join us, and we'll all be in this together, and hopefully be celebrating like crazy tomorrow.
Yep. Anyway, hope you have a good rest of your night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. All right? And we'll catch you tomorrow on the draft lottery stream. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.